Hey everyone, my name is Michael. Today we're discussing about crypto, sorta. So the US debt has risen by $275 billion. This means in a single day, because this was a culmination of really the past month's debt added in that one day. Now we're well over 33 trillion for total US debt. In that single day, the US government added more debt than more than half of Bitcoin's total market cap. And currently Bitcoin is around $27,500. People are getting excited because usually during periods of uncertainty, especially revolving around the US dollar, crypto, Bitcoin does go up. And we've been in a period where there's been a lot of just waiting. We're waiting for Bitcoin to go up. Last year, Bitcoin was falling down. It wasn't great. And now you've got the US government constantly printing more money, adding more debt, and there's not really a great solution. Politicians are trying to figure it out. It's a complex issue. Obviously, this has been going on for decades, but it's getting worse. And Americans are well aware of this. Also, there's a lot of fear and anger over where the economy's at right now. People are upset. Today I was watching, just on my break, a little video from people's opinions on the government, on the economy, where it's at right now, why Americans are spending more money in stores. Americans aren't doing great financially. They're spending more at stores because they realize, what is there to save for? Am I supposed to save for any one of these homes behind me? Normal, middle-class homes. What about townhomes? What about apartments? Well, they're great and dandy, but they've gone up in price. And yes, most are falling now, but it's not enough to offset what you'd be paying on a mortgage. Rent is increasing. Mortgages are crazy because of the interest rates. You're talking 6, 7, 8%. Maybe if everything goes fantastic, maybe less. But with HOA fees, even without HOA fees, with insurance, with taxes, with property taxes, with mortgages, everything. On Zillow, you have this little calculator. Everything adds up to some of these houses. You're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per month total. So now you got to make 3 times that. But maybe that's not enough. Maybe you need 4 times that, maybe 5 times that in income. And if you're a single individual just trying to get into your first apartment and you realize, hey, this apartment or townhome is going to cost me $2,000 per month and it's nothing fancy. It's we're talking something that's $100,000 to $150,000. And maybe that's different outside, because outside of Illinois, property taxes are probably, well, certain areas are probably worse, but there's plenty of states where they're probably better. But here, again, I've seen places, $120,000 apartment, nothing fancy. You got 1980s furniture and kitchens, and suddenly you're talking $2,000. So you have to at least make $6,000 per month. People realize, and that's with a 20% down payment. A lot of people don't even have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Yes, you can get first-time home buyers assistance, and a lot of people are trying for that, but not in all areas, and not everybody qualifies. So many people realize, okay, I can't save up. I can't even afford this because rent is going up, but rent in many places is actually, at this point, cheaper. Well, yes, mortgages are more expensive without a proper down payment, 20% down. If you have 3.5 to 5% down, they're many times cheaper than rent. But without that money, and people don't have that saved, suddenly rent could be cheaper, $100, and it's easier to qualify for, certainly, especially if you have lower credit. So you realize, I can't save up, I can't qualify for this. I have $2,000 in the bank. Let me at least purchase something that's going to make me happy. You go out to the store, you purchase something, and boom, Americans are spending like crazy because they realize, what is there to save for? The economy's not in a great place right now. So we're amid an impending global financial crisis, and this is where Bitcoin shines. The current American debt is $33.442 trillion, an absolutely insane amount of money. And now what's going on with the rising interest rates of last year and kind of sticking around, because in car sales, it's just normal now, 6, 7, 8, 9%, whatever. Same thing with mortgages. Well, this interest, it's not free. Someone's paying for it. It's not free for the government, and this debt isn't free, and the debt will continue to grow And the fact that the federal government has handed out a lot of money means they also have to pay back a lot of money, and it's going to actually worsen all of this. So, in terms of the Federal Reserve, with their interest rate hikes, as a result of all these interest rate hikes, the rate that they're paying with more than just the interest, their projections are showing that interest costs will triple from $400 billion last year to almost $1.2 trillion by 2032. That's pretty concerning, amongst other things, such as what do we do with Social Security? What do we do with education spending? What do we do? Well, obviously, there's military spending. Come on, you got to have military spending. But raising rates won't stop inflation. It just delays everything until it actually worsens. It will stoke higher inflation later on. The vicious circle is unrelenting. We have entered a death debt spiral. Mr. Max Kaiser has been quoted as saying, everything will go to zero as he expects against Bitcoin. Debt is going parabolic. Now, that's an extreme view, but if we take a look at both sides of the coin, I think it certainly was a lot better 10 years ago. That's for sure. I moved abroad, and when I came back, it's a different America. I love America. I'm very proud of my country, but it's a different world that we're living in. After COVID, a lot of debt. There's a lot of paranoia. People, yes, they're going on frivolous spending sprees because they're just afraid. But deep down inside, you're still seeing problems with employment. You're still seeing problems with interest, problems with debt, more and more repossessions, bankruptcies. I'm one of those bankruptcies. Now, that was from a while back, but it's crazy to think about where we're going to be 5 years from now if this is going to continue at these rates that people are just not prepared for. Most Americans don't even have an emergency fund. I'm one of those. Most Americans don't even have an extra couple $100. What happens if your tire explodes? What happens if suddenly you lose your home or medical debt? There's a huge crisis with health insurance in America and medical problems and a worsening. It's crazy because there's so many different varieties and flavors of these crises, but people are sad, they're depressed, they're going out, such as me, eating junk food. You get unhealthy, you got health problems, can't afford health problems because, maybe you're not in a great situation, and suddenly you and one medical debt scenario means you're going bankrupt. Or you did one frivolous spending spree, didn't prepare, suddenly there's a crisis, boom, you're going into bankruptcy. You lose your home, you lose your job. You weren't prepared. You moved across the country for this amazing job and they fire you because it's at-will employment. Maybe they found a better employee. Maybe some crazy scenario happened where, I don't know, half the staff got laid off, starting from the executives as well. And it all went down to the bottom, and you just got hired. Boom, you lost your job. You weren't prepared. There's a million different scenarios. I am very grateful that I have my current job. I love it. I am trying to make as much as I can. I will now be able to save thanks to the bankruptcy. And the people that I'm talking to, they're already kind of at the end of their careers. Most of my clients, they're doing well for themselves, but even they are afraid because you just don't know what's around the corner. With this, it's not just, my local community, my situation. It's the entire nation. It's the entire world. Goldman Sachs predicts that in 2025, the cost of financing the U.S.'s debt, a mountain of debt, will set a new record. And this is not a record we should be proud of. They claim that the cost associated with the debt load had increased due to the Federal Reserve's interest rates. We estimate that debt as a share of GDP will rise from 96%, which is already insane, to 123% over the next decade, driven primarily by a chronic deficit of around 3%. And when we take a look at the Congressional Budget Office, they predict that by the year 2053, the federal debt may account for 181% of the GDP. That's quite a far cry when we look back at the 70s. And if you look back at the history of the US dollar, back when it was backed by gold, and when that changed, And suddenly the crises of 1980 and 1990 and all these wars, and there's just a bunch of terrible events that happen around the world. It's always cyclical. There's good seasons, there's bad seasons, but it keeps worsening for this new generation. We're not prepared. And for the average person who's not able to rise above the middle class will be an absolute debt trap. You're going to have later on that house. Yes, hopefully that's the dream. But for right now, you got to get into an apartment if you can, but probably you're renting, maybe sharing a room. But when you do get that house, it's not going to be rewarding because you're suddenly going to be scrambling. And all it takes is just one life scenario. Maybe you get cancer. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you need to spend money on a family member that something happened to them. You're not prepared for that situation. Most people aren't. And it's a scary scenario to be in. And that's why there's a lot of people who are comforted by the fact that cryptocurrency, it's not an end-all, be-all. It's not the unicorn that's going to save everybody. But it gives you a chance. It gives you a fighting chance. Plus, there's careers around it. But to be able to invest and diversify, you have a little bit in your 401k, you have a little bit in stocks, you have a little bit in maybe, who knows, gold and silver and whatnot, and a little bit in cryptocurrency. Don't go crazy. But to have that hope that, yes, there's something to fall back on later on down the line, because maybe there's not going to be a Social Security Administration anymore. Maybe there's not even going to be a U.S. government, or the U.S. dollar will crash or something crazy. But even on the less extreme view that, hey, even if there is going to be a retirement fund, there's a lot of pensions that were supposed to help all these people, and the company went bankrupt, and turns out the pension isn't there, and there was corruption and whatnot. But hey, you were waiting for retirement, and you'd get paychecks from the government. Maybe by the time we're 50, 60, 70 years old, that's not going to be there, or maybe it's going to be such a small fraction. Like in Poland, I've seen plenty of retirees that just can't afford life. They can't afford to make their payments, because what they're getting from the government is not enough. They worked their entire lives during the communist regime, and they were slaving away, and only the top people are able to actually save something and live decent lives, but the rest are kind of slumming it up. So the only thing that gives you that hope is, hey, maybe if I invest in cryptocurrency, maybe if I invest in stocks, maybe if I do really, really well for myself and my job. You have to attack from all fronts. And even if you're successful, even if you're doing great right now, it's good to be paranoid. It's good to strategically plan out everything. You can't get overconfident, because suddenly something can come out of nowhere. You're winning so many battles, but you end up losing the war because you got overconfident out of nowhere. You got snuck up from behind. So with Bitcoin right now, we don't know if it's going to be the end-all, be-all. Maybe Bitcoin's not going to exist 20 years from now. But cryptocurrency is here to stay. Technology is advancing. Maybe cryptocurrency is a stepping stone for whatever's next. Either way, it's something to take notice of. Right now, before COVID, before shutdowns, before all this stuff, Bitcoin was doing fantastic. There was a little bit of a crash. More U.S. Treasury bonds will have to be sold. There's going to be more policy changes. We hope that next year interest rates will fall and prices of houses, cars, all these big assets will fall. But if they don't, if there's another war, if there's another crisis, if inflation actually goes up and you can't even afford anything, maybe there's something to fall back on. We don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Who knows? But it's just an interesting time to be alive right now. Now, we can't get all paranoid and super scared. Still live your day-to-day life, but just realize, hey, we got to strategically plan. And that's why every single day that I go into work, I realize as a salesman, I'm able to dictate my salary. I have to sell. I have to make enough money. I have to hit my bonuses so that I'm able to make enough money to pay my bankruptcy, to pay my rent, to pay everything, and have a plan at the end of the day. Okay, I got to get away from this. I got to lower my payments. How do I get there? Well, being an employee is great, but it's certainly not going to lead to an amazing retirement, meaning you have to do something outside of work in addition to that. And if you can't get a second job or side gigs or whatever, investing is the way to go. Now, you can't go, full Forex and full crazy crypto shorting. Here you go, times 100x leverage. Do the slow way. Do the slow route. we're happy that Bitcoin's moving up. We're upset with where the economy is at right now, but there's a good future for those who prepare. Hopefully, maybe you get struck by lightning tomorrow, but knock on wood, I don't have any wood in this car, so let's just imagine that's wood. The plastic here is wood. We're gonna get through this, but it's interesting to take note, and it's also interesting. Last thing, people are freaking out. Oh no, the market cap of cryptocurrency and taxes not being paid and whatnot. Well, that is just a small seed in this massive bucket that really doesn't even go out. I mean, it's an ocean of debt that we're flowing in on. Think about it. The market cap of cryptocurrency, even if it hits $1 trillion, even if it's 2 trillion, 3 trillion, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to the global worldwide debt out there. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.